Hi everyone, my name is Mark McKay. I'm chair of the SA Regional Committee for the Evaluation Society. We've arranged today's talk and I'm looking forward to hearing from Susan shortly. So before we get underway, there's a few notices to inform you about. Just change the slide. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge the lands we're meeting on today. I'm on Kaurna land, and I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to lands, waters and communities. We pay our respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures and to elders past and present. If you're not a member of the AES, but you're interested in learning more about evaluation, then you should consider joining. For details, there's a website. The fees are really reasonable. You get workshops like these, but also other opportunities such as the conference, there's a journal and so on. So well worth checking out. An unusual announcement today. I'd like to congratulate one of our fellow committee members, Colin Sharp. He's a past president of the Society. He's currently on the regional committee as well. He's an evaluator and an educator, and the AES has recognised him with a lifetime membership. So well done, Colin. I did see him log on a little while ago, and then I'm not sure if he's here now. His connection was lost. Susan is presenting today, so welcome to Susan. She founded the Story Catchers back in 2012 and uses a methodology that's used film and community participation in human-centered design, monitoring and evaluation of social impact, measurement and reporting. It's a very interesting approach to evaluation, and she's been using it for quite some time, obviously, now over a decade. You can read what's on the screen, and it's also available online. But she's a storyteller using film to help communicate what's happened on the ground and to make change. So I'd like to welcome Susan as she takes us through her presentation today. Over to you, Susan. I'll just stop sharing.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate that intro. I can share my screen, can I?
Yes, you can.
Excellent. I'll just I might actually just do that now so people can see. Let me see. Can everybody see that? Can you see that, Mark?
Yes, I can see that. Yep, no problems. There's a
okay.
Yeah, stop. Thank you. Yep.
Yeah.
I can see it.
Great.
Is that it looks like a website?
Yes, that's correct.
Yep.
It's an
It's
ArcGIS StoryMap.
showing a little bit small. Are you able to enlarge it a bit? Yeah, if you do that, it brings it out. That's better. Fills up the screen a bit more.
Is that better?
Yep, that's better.
Okay, great. Yeah, so thanks, Mark. So my name's Susan, and I have, as Mark mentioned, been using film for some time in the monitoring and evaluation process. I have an interesting and eclectic background. I came from nursing in the beginning, and anyway, ended up in the ABC as a community documentary filmmaker. And when I left the ABC, I started up the Story Catchers. And I did this as I knew that, there was a really powerful way that we could learn about different impacts that processes and programs have had on people. I had worked in the Riverland after the over a decade drought, and I saw how powerful story was in, telling the stories of what really happened on the ground to people. So yeah, I started the Story Catchers, and one of my first projects evaluations that I did was with the ILC, which is the ILCS now. And fast forward to now, 12 years on or longer. And there's lots of different things that I've been experimenting with film. I work with monitoring and evaluation specialists on the processes that we work with. And what I'm going to be taking you through today is an ArcGIS story map, which is the end product of a multi-year evaluation of the On the Right Track program, which is a driver's license, Aboriginal road safety and driver's licensing program or project, or is actually a service delivery now, run throughout a remote South Australia. They also are now running it more regionally as well. This was the second evaluation that we actually did on this particular program. And I will be taking you through how I used ArcGIS StoryMap in the reporting process. So it's a really beautiful way that we can show the stories that we've caught, where we've caught them, and a little bit about the communities that we caught them in. And also it's a really beautiful interactive way of reporting. So I shall just take you through it. So this is the ArcGIS Story Map website. It's actually, you can actually get a free account with ArcGIS Story Mapping. So you can actually go in there and experiment with it yourself a little. But what makes it really beautiful is, of course, all the content, live content that's on it. So, this ArcGIS Story Map, as I said, is the report in a visual format. Yes, we do have a written report that accompanies this, but this is a way that we can share it with the communities and other people that may be interested in looking at what On the Right Track's doing. So just a little bit about On the Right Track. As I said, it's a driver's licensing program, and at this particular time, it was running in the APY and the MT lands. The APY is the Ananu Pitjantjatjara Yunkin Kanjara lands, and the Maralinga lands in South Australia. Since this evaluation, it has expanded to different places within South Australia, being Ceduna, well, it was actually running in Ceduna then, but Unadada, it's going to the Flinders Ranges now, and it's also in Adelaide, in Port Adelaide. It's having profound effects on young people and older people's lives, being able to have a license, and also, most importantly, getting some ID as well. You know, it's very difficult for a lot of these people to get ID. So I'm just gonna move that bar so I can see what I'm doing. The service delivery locations and the stories that we collected for On the Right Track was across, we did 140 stories. We have actually caught 140 stories over a 6-year period, because as I said, that this is the second evaluation that we've done. So we've got quite a bank of stories now. And we've done over close to 20 participatory workshops within the lands. The evaluation process we use is a adjuncted MSC process that has integrated film within it. And, you know, this is really important when we're wanting to be really inclusive with our, you know, the people that are evaluating the programs. And the first people that get to evaluate the programs are the people that are using the programs. And having it on film is just a really beautiful and inclusive way that we can do that. And it's, you know, we can use the stories beyond, which you'll see later on in this presentation. So we've been able to actually map where the stories have come from as well. So within, or actually I'll go into the services a little. You know, the reason why this service was started back in 2000, I think it was 2016, 15, was that it was actually really difficult for people to get a license in remote South Australia. Many of these barriers were systemic. It was very difficult to get ID. If you can't get an ID, it's very difficult to get a license. There was no people teaching driver's licensing. There was very limited, you know, cars to be able to actually do your licensing in. And the police were really stretched to be able to actually take people through getting their license. Now, this actually caused a huge amount of issues with unpaid fines or getting fines for driving without a license, unpaid fines. I mean, I can remember going to one community, and somebody was telling me that there was a person within the community that had over $70,000 worth of driver's licensing fines. Like, how are people going to pay this stuff? So, like these sorts of programs are really important programs, not only for getting driver's licenses, but, this can flow on to getting jobs. It can flow on to, obviously this is a road safety thing as well. So they're in the schools, they're, changing behaviours as well. So one of the things that, talking about jobs, it was a really beautiful story that I caught, and this shows the value of a story. This young fellow was telling me that since he had his license, he got his license, number one, because he had just had a young child, and he wanted to make sure that he could get up to Alice Springs safely and without getting fines. And so he got his license, and because he got his license, he got a job at the local school, and because he was able to actually he was able to drive the school troopy, and so he introduced a program within the schools that actually, if the young fellas came to school, he was a traditional man, he'd been initiated, and because he was a traditional man, he thought, well, I'll start a program, and if the young fellas come to school every day, I'll take them out hunting on Friday nights. So within a 2-week period, he had to the school rate of these young fellas up to nearly 100%, just because he was able to drive and take them out hunting. This was a really beautiful little story that was shared. I don't think your numbers are going to tell you those sorts of stories. So here's a map of the different locations that On the Right Track is now actually delivering its services in. In the beginning, it was a program and it was on a perpetual funding cycle. And, I'm not saying it's because of what we did, but, the first evaluation was a film, and those films were shared with ministers, and they saw the importance of this program, and so it was taken out of a perpetual funding cycle into a service delivery. And I believe that they added $1 onto each of our registrations, which are, South Australian registration, that now funds this program, or it's a service delivery, as I said. And, actually since then, with, this particular evaluation, we were able to sort of look at how the program, the service delivery program was Service SA, I believe. And, there was limited translation services, and this is something that was uncovered within this evaluation. And so getting translation services for all the different Aboriginal languages in South Australia for a service delivery was really difficult. So now Service SA has started going into the communities with this particular program. And this has had profound effects on different processes within Service SA. So that was something that came out of this evaluation. And what's really beautiful about this particular method of evaluation is where the team was agile enough to be able to make changes on the go and test things out as we go, as stories came from, different workshops and communities around what's happening. So here's the story map side of things, and you can see there's a whole heap of numbers on the map. And if I was to actually click on number 10, that would take me straight to, Unadata. And this particular community here, we have a few stats up there on the slide over the side. And, this community has approximately 70 people. And as of December 2023, they had seen 22 people in that community, and they'd only really started delivering services within that community within the last year. Go back to 3, Mimili, Makoo. I mean, that's a community that's one of the first community, it was the second community you get to in the APY. And that's got 239 people. And as of December 2023, On the Right Track had seen 259 of those people for services other than driver's licensing. It's, as I said, it's not just a driver's licensing program. It's also a road safety program. It's an ID program. It does a lot of things that fills in a lot of gaps that were needing to be filled in. The service is actually an Aboriginal run service for Aboriginal people. So it's a highly successful service delivery, and has been used as a model on how to actually run programs for Aboriginal people. So anyway, this is the interactive map that you can go through and see who's in the community, how many people they saw in that community. Fast forward on to the next one. This is the evaluation report. This is actually the visual evaluation report, because as I said, we actually deliver a written report as well, and the visual report is to accompany the evaluation report. It's not a standalone report. It really is a report that can be used on websites, shared with different funding bodies, or shared with ministers, or people will engage with a 10-minute video report. If we've got time at the end, and if you're interested, I can play you some of that, but I will keep going through the presentation as we go. So this evaluation, so again, this ArcGIS story map, it can be everything that the written report is in a snapshot. So they can really get to see what we did and how we did it. A little bit more in depth than an executive summary. So this is just about the frameworks that we used within the process, and yeah, the different sorts of practices that we incorporated into our workshopping and story capturing, and which obviously goes into it more in depth within the written report. So we also can see what show what the key findings were. Yeah, and this is a really beautiful way to be able to share something with the community as well, with that they can engage with and are probably going to read, because it's sort of sharp and shiny without, being too onerous on reading. Something, if you're wanting to share something with your, the community that you've done. So the key findings, this just goes through, the On the Right Track was really effective in its delivery of activities throughout South Australia's remote communities. And it just says, that it actually was achieving its immediate and medium term outcomes, which if you really wanted to know, you could go into the report. That On the Right Track successfully addresses needs and motivations of Aboriginal people in remote communities. And I know that during our process, there was the evaluation process, there was a lot of talk about bringing in truck licensing so people could get have more overcome barriers to different sorts of employment, as they were building roads up there, it was really a great opportunity to be able to actually bring in truck licensing. And also there's a lot of jobs within the community if you've actually got a truck licensing. So actually, I think it was the week after we finished the evaluation that they went up there for the first time and delivered a truck licensing process. We also look at the suggestions for improvement. Yeah, one of the things that was really evident when we were up in all the different sorts of communities capturing stories, one of the things that was really difficult was the transferring your L's over to your P's and finding those different sorts of, people to be able to do their hours with somebody, to be able to actually get their P's. And so a lot of the time, people would sit on their L's for a very, very long time because they didn't have the capacity to actually get their P's. And so that's something that was integrated into the service now. And, I see a lot more people coming through with their Ps now. Additional services, as I said, as truck licensing, defensive driving training, like they've sealed the roads up there or partially sealed the roads. People are driving faster on, partially sealed roads, which can be really dangerous. And so that, doing those sorts of things, that being able to actually respond to the community needs, as I said previously, to be agile enough as a service delivery to be able to do that. And this team is able to do that. So in conclusion for the report, not this presentation, but clients are able to obtain their permits, licenses, exemptions, because they also help people pay their fines and work out different methodology or methods that they can pay their fines. And they actually started bringing the fines department up, and just even to be able to have the fines department in our workshops. And I'll take you through that in a little bit, how the process looks, but to be able to actually have the fines department and the SAPOL in the workshops with us and really understanding the effect that these fines had on these people. These people don't have they don't have community service to be able to pay their fines. They don't have the money to be able to pay these huge fines, and so even to be able to talk about different sort of ideas on how that could look different, and so there was a lot of talk that had started to happen when we were doing this about, perhaps it could be done on means testing and all of that sort of stuff. For me to pay a $200 fine is a bit of a bummer, but for a person up in the lands to pay a $200 fine when their food is already really expensive, all of those sorts of things, it's kind of unreachable for them. And so then that starts this whole cycle of unpaid fines and potentially being imprisoned for that. And then, yeah, well, that's another story altogether, isn't it? And that happens. So as I said, we use a most significant change process. And one of the most significant change stories that came out of this was the fact that this particular service delivery was reconciliation in action. And it just happened to be that at the time, this particular department had just released their stretch reconciliation action plan. And we were able to look at the stories and look what their stretch was wanting to achieve. And this particular service delivery was already achieving most of these things that this particular department wanted to achieve within the next couple of years with their stretch plan. So we were able to use the footage that we had already collected and tell stories on those reconciliation in action stories, so they could use them as part of their process of evaluation going forward. Also, some as educational videos for other teams within the department that could benefit from knowing how this team operated in communities. And these are the two reconciliation and action videos that we actually produced out of that. And then we looked more in depth at the stretch plan and realised and matched the stories with what they were saying within the stretch plan. So we did a video on ways of working, respecting the landscape, holistic and quality caregiving. Now, these were all videos that were created from the original story catch. So it was not like we had to go back in again. It was just another layer of story that we could be using for looking at different sorts of impacts that this program was having, or service delivery was having, across the lands. As a part of the process, so here's a really good time to be sort of explaining our processes a little bit. And again, this is why an ArcGIS story map is really lovely to be able to show, what we actually did. But, a snapshot of our process is that we work with the client to create an evaluation framework, we being my M&E specialists and myself and the clients. From that framework becomes kind of like my storyboard to be able to go into community, to be able to capture stories. There's that framework includes all the consent processes, all of the questions, all of the frameworks that we'll be using. I then go into community with my client. My clients are always my advocate on community. Like, I'd never do anything without my clients in community. They're the ones that have got the relationships in community. And we capture the stories. Those stories then come back and I start to edit those stories up. And those stories are edited and then passed on. And so I sort of do the first analytical process. They are then passed on to my M&E specialists, who then go through the stories and make a story library. And that story library really is a very in-depth analytical process where we theme the stories and looking at, standout quotes, all of those sorts of things. Those themed stories then actually, and we looking for themes that we can create videos for the workshops with. And so we, as I said before, we with this particular process, we actually how many? 10, 10 different workshops within the communities, let alone within the city areas, over 4 different field trips, which included 70 people. So if we caught 50 initial stories, and then we had 70 people within those workshops. So, that's a good snapshot of the community that we're getting story from. So those particular films, going back to the films that we show in the workshops, we had three different films that we showed in the workshops. And these particular workshops, we looked at the enablers and the barriers. We looked at the enablers, we looked at the barriers, we looked at the most significant change stories, and we looked at also the reconciliation in action stories as well, that were coming out. We then, so they're the first people, the community, the first people that get to analyse those stories. We then come back to the city And we do the same sorts of workshops within the city, from the feedback that we've received from the communities. And within those workshops, we'll have all of the different sorts of stakeholders, whether they be with this particular evaluation. We had SAPOL, we had fines, the fines unit, we had what are they called now? Oh God, it's totally slipped my mind. But like the courts and justice, we had in there. We had education department. We had child protection. We had yeah, so all of these different sorts of people within the city workshops would have probably up to between 15 and 20 people. These were all different stakeholders from different departments, and they were able to really see how what their part was within this particular service delivery, and how it was really beautiful to see, because there were some really beautiful crossovers in how the different sorts of programs that they were running within their departments. And they were like, oh, wow, I didn't realize you ran that program. Like, perhaps we could work together, like there was NGOs in there as well. So, oh, here we are. And there was another one. There was the improvements. Yeah, the improvements, ideas from improving the program as well. And as I said before, a lot of the time when we showed the improvements videos, they could add to that, and they could actually then go back to the office, say, how can we implement those changes now into the program? And so they would work out ways that they could implement it on on the hop almost, and see if they worked, those changes, which was really beautiful to see. So, yeah, so the evaluators, helped facilitate these really rich discussions between all these departments and communities, and which was lovely to see. So these are some of the city workshops. Yeah, so again, we have another interactive map, and these maps are really about the workshops that we did, and it's very transparent, the whole process. So if I was to click on 4, you'd see that's APY West workshops. Now these are all the videos. These are the videos that we showed within the APY West community workshops that we had edited up from the original story catch. Just some stuff on the internal workshops and the external workshops. So we did internal workshops for the department that we were working for, and we did external workshops as well. So there was a lot of lessons and really beautiful discussions that were going on. And again, here we've got the Adelaide workshops, the different sorts of barriers, enablers, and aspirations workshop video. We've got the most significant change workshop video, and we've got the reconciliation in action video. And again, more videos were different. Yeah, so that is how we use ArcGIS StoryMap as a really beautiful way to show our processes, the findings, the stories that we caught, and really honor the people that were telling us those stories. So that is the end of this presentation, and I'm wondering if people have got or want to see the finished product of the evaluation report, being the film report, which is not that one. And again, here we can see we've got just a bar that I can click straight through to it as well. So
Yeah, I think there's time to show part of it, Susan. So
okay.
show it. And also someone has asked, could you share the link for this in the chat as well? Is that
Sure.
doable?
I'll
Yep.
I'll just do that right now so I don't forget. Oh, actually, no, this is a preview. Sorry, I have to.
You can do that after.
Yeah,
Or
I can do it after because I've got to get out of this particular thing because this is the preview. Sorry.
Yep,
I
that's
have
right.
to, yeah, I
Show
have
the
to get
video
out of it
and
and
then
do the share link.
yeah, show the
Yeah,
video and then
because share
share
link won't work. Okay, sure.
Is there any volume?
Mm,
I can't hear anything.
okay, so I'm wondering if that because I've got my ears in. I think I have to share my audio. I think I've got to take my ear pods out. Hold on.
Okay, so display AirPods, no, microphone. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Can you hear me or no?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, so I'm wondering if you can hear this now. Hold on. Can you hear that or no?
No, I can't.
So there was no sound coming out?
No sound. Have you checked the volume at the other end? You know, the little icon on the bar there? When you hit play down the right-hand side. Is that,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's right up. Yeah. It
can't hear
might
it.
be something to do with my settings somehow. Audio settings.
Yep. If you can't play it, don't stress. If you can share the link so people can play it
Speakers, text.
on their own machines when they have time, that would be
It
good.
has to be the same as system, doesn't it?
Beg your pardon, Susan?
Just see if you can hear this.
Okay.
Yeah.
By having Aboriginal staff
Yes, can hear that.
service to Aboriginal people, it's a win-win because we understand the pressures that Aboriginal people face in community.
It's a big culture shock for them, and for them to go down there just to do their license is setting them way out of their league. Our people don't have the money to go down there. When they do have to go down there, that means they have to have accommodation. They have to figure out a transport to go down there. The staff are friendly. They connect well with the people. It's good seeing our animal people, our indigenous people working for our community people and helping getting the license. It's just better getting the license earlier than the city.
It's being able to participate in society. It's hard to walk in both worlds, in the animal world and whitefellow world, if you don't have a way to get around and to do it safely and within the law. It's a massive leg up and bridge between animal world and the whitefellow world.
That they're going out to the communities and helping everyone get their license, because I know a lot of young people, like, they really think it's hard, and like that's good that on the right track is helping.
This is really successful because of ownership. People from Indigenous communities, people from Indigenous backgrounds, they care about the Indigenous communities. Of course they do. They passionately want to help the people that they're from.
People see rat track coming into the APY land, they're all happy. Right across the line from Indalga to Kankapibanya. Seeing familiar faces and also the way that the On the Right Track staff are supporting our people out here in the way that they present themselves. They care about the people and they're making sure that they're doing the right thing. Yeah, the bonds that they make with the On the Track team.
They listen to communities and they've listened to people on the ground and they incorporate that into their program. They also have Aboriginal staff who are aware of issues that are unique to, I guess, Aboriginal people, and they come out and they're on the ground, so they see firsthand too.
What they do adds value to what's already going on here. It's that real partnership approach and saying, well, actually, we're coming here. How do we add value to what you're doing? It wasn't this, hey, we're coming and taking over what you're doing.
They were driving to Adelaide, to Mala, Colvidi, and Borigasta. And the life, to look after myself on the highway.
If On the Right Track wasn't here, there'd still be people driving, but they wouldn't have the education. But having On the Right Track here, they can get their license, but while they're getting it, they're getting educated about the right way to drive. They're getting shown by experienced instructors. Yeah, they do contribute to the safety of the roads.
People the means to travel in a safer manner. I think by having the service, people are able to learn the rules properly, having the means to be travelling on a highway, understanding road rules, but in a way that's user-friendly.
I thought it was going to be hard, but it was actually pretty easy just to help that they women. At first, it was a bit scary because it was in the police station. I did fail the first one. With On the Right Track, well, it was much better.
People are getting taught a lot better now. You know, there's instructors that come out and, yeah, there's specific routes within communities that capture some of the intricacies of driving. Now they're actually getting instruction before they get their license. So it has made a big difference.
We get fine, we can't see road track and say Albert for by the bike. It's putting to that for helping when they got big fine, they can't see road track.
Help people pay for things, sort out fines, and give lots of advice. So a very valuable part of the community.
Gone are the days when you can go see a policeman and he'll give you a license. You know, it's very difficult to obtain a license now, but they're keeping the people out here on more of an equal footing with the people in the city, and it's fair. It's a good thing. Being here and looking at it and seeing the effect on the people, we think it's vital. You know, it's an essential service, really. You know, otherwise, you know, more people will end up in jail with fines. You know, and it's unfair.
Those repetitive members in that community that were actually getting fines for no license, they've since got a license. There's been a huge decrease since the On the Right Track program, probably between 60–80% decrease.
Then a lot of our people have gotten their driver's license through On the Right Track. There was a period, I guess, where there was a sort of a pause in the system where it was really hard to get our people to get licensed, and that caused a lot of havoc in community due to, you know, you caught without a license, then you're fined by the police.
I truly believe that the mindset has been changed. People are wearing seatbelts. We're seeing child restraints in cars. I mean, every year that I've come out here over the past 6 or 7 years, you just see cars that are better maintained, and you can tell the difference in the way people are driving around the communities as well. when I first came out here 6-7 years ago, we were seeing lots of people, no seatbelts on, 7 or 8 people in the car, kids just on people's laps, no windscreens. The standards of the cars are getting better as well. And I'm sure it's because the mindset's changing. People are understanding just how important being safe on the road is.
By people getting licenses, understanding road rules, I think we all benefit. Other service providers, because they then have people who can drive vehicles, who understand road rules.
Does give people empowerment, self-determination. It all comes up, where people can go and get their license and they can do it for themselves.
The On the Right Track program has been wonderful because that's one of the key, I guess, ingredients for people having the skill set to be able to work.
And sort of changing the attitude, a lot, because they are proud that because I first laughing and they go, well, you sort of pretend their lives are around.
When they get a license, they're paying far more attention to their children in the cars. Like before, where kids were probably not as restrained in the cars as the baby seats came out and child seats came out, and now they're starting to use them more and more. There's more awareness of safety. Everyone understands the speed limits more now and what they should and shouldn't do. And the outcome, I think, is that the whole community is safer for it.
But getting a license provides other opportunities. You become a focal point for your family because you're a legal driver. You can take people to other communities, drive to football games, you can drive to Alice Springs. Yeah, so it becomes an empowerment. A license may be just right on a card, but it leads to many benefits of having a license. And I'm happy for ArcGIS to come here. They're doing good job in our community.
Thank you, because you give a service that is absolutely vital to our community, and people would be missing out and disadvantaged if you weren't here. Without having On the Right Track coming out and doing that, then you're not just disadvantaging them on the road, you disadvantage them for every part of their life. We need this service to stay, and yeah, thank you.
I would like to say thank you, Right Track people, behalf of everyone land people.
Thanks, Susan. There's a few questions that have been posted while that's been playing. Apart from the link, which if you could post, that would be great in the chat. We'll start from the top. Are the images in the report from the videos or are they separate?
They're separate, but can I just get out of this screen? Hold on.
Yep, by all means.
Oh, that's better.
Yep.
They are separate, but often I'm often taking photos on my phone or with my camera. I've always got my camera on me, but they're separate, yeah. But there's no reason why you can't actually take stuff from your footage anyway as screen grabs, for sure. Yeah.
Do you know how community members have looked at the story map page? How many?
No, I can't answer that question. Sorry, I can't answer that question. We
or if anyone viewed it? Yeah.
Sorry?
Can you tell?
Yeah, heaps of people view it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. But I don't know what the percentage is. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Follow-up question that came from that one. How did the public servants or ministers respond to the video report? Do you know if they watched it?
So this particular video report, I can't say I know, but the first one, yes, they did, because the On the Right Track team actually presented to Parliament and they sent this report to them. And this was when it was changed over from a program, I believe, to a service delivery. So that was the first evaluation that we did back in 2016, 7, or perhaps it was 2018. Sorry, yeah, 2018. We had COVID in the middle of this particular report. So it was kind of lucky because we had actually done all of the workshops. We'd just finished doing all the workshops in the communities when COVID broke out. So the communities then got locked down for 2 years, so nearly.
Yeah, oh, good timing in terms of getting that done and also letting you do some editing.
Yeah. But again, we just had to be really agile with the whole process, really, because like many people had to be within those years.
Yep. What percentage of the budget went on the footage gathering and processing?
So this particular evaluation process is probably no more expensive than any other evaluation process. I don't know what their full budget is, but this whole process with COVID in the middle of it all, knowing that it was a 2.5-year multi-leveled evaluation with different sorts of processes from workshops to collecting footage to editing was about, I reckon it was about 250,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. And
I think by memory.
Yep. And you incorporate quantitative aspects where you can, is that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. There was a lot of stuff that was going on in the background with all of their data cleaning and that the data that they had been collecting. I believe they've actually started a new data. Can't remember what the what they use, that particular department now. But yes, the answer to that question is yes, there is definitely the quant and the qual that goes into this report. We just don't collect it.
Okay.
We just collect the qualitative data.
Follow-up question, 250,000 for the entire evaluation, is that correct?
That's correct.
Yep. Thank you.
And then there was other products that came into it as well that they got budgeting for, which was the add-ons like the reconciliation and action or the reconciliation stretch plan videos that we did. So they were extra. They weren't included in the original budgeting. So that was something that they wanted to do, knowing that we had all of the stories that just went so well with it. Because they had also viewed the stories many times. So yeah, as you can see, it's a really, I believe, cost-effective way and multi-leveled use way of reporting.
Yep. Okay. How do you manage the footage with deaths from the community?
Really great question. We pulled that piece of footage out. So any point in time, and this has only happened once in my whole, over a decade of doing this, where we've had one, and we just take that particular story out. So as you can see, the stories are quite full and rich, and they don't rely just on one story to tell the story. So there's many levels to the stories. So yeah, I've only had to pull one story in my whole.
Okay. Yep.
So that's pretty easy to tend to.
There's another question. Thank you for sharing this. It's very powerful. I'm curious to know how people in the community responded to the collection and display of the visual images.
They love it. They love it, and they love seeing themselves on film, and they love participating. They feel like they I mean, this is my observation. They feel like they're included in the process. They feel like their contribution matters. And so yeah, they love it. They love seeing, Uncle Jamie up on screen. They love seeing themselves talking about what's happening to them.
Yep. If someone was interested to do something like this, is there a big cost to get the equipment? And is it hard for a novice to do, or do they really need to connect with someone with some skills from the filmmaking sort of world?
Well, I would say that you really need to actually connect with somebody who knows how to, number one, interview, use a camera. I mean, for me, I've been doing this for a very, very long time, and the camera slips into the background and it becomes my relationship with the person. And I would not be taking chances with trying to do this sort of work with unskilled people. Like, it's like, would you do an evaluation with unskilled evaluators?
Yeah, fair enough. And the website you use, when you've created your stories and you've put them up there so people can access them, is there a cost for keeping that up there?
Nope. Nope.
Okay.
It's free.
It's free. Okay. Would you put the cameras into the hands of participants?
So yes, we do that. Participatory media, that was actually my original training. I trained as a participatory media person. That's what I was doing with the ABC. I was an ABC Open producer. I was upskilling communities across Australia to be able to actually tell their own stories in their own ways, whether that be through audio, images, or film. What happens though when you're actually doing participatory stuff, particularly with the stories, you're not going to get the uniformed sort of questioning, which is really important with your evaluation. But there's no reason, and in fact, I've just finished, whilst it's not an evaluation, I've just finished a visual report for several universities. I think it was a research project with 5 different universities, and I was sharing the findings of that research project, that 5-year research project, and we used images and footage that had been collected from the different, it doesn't matter what it was a decolonization in healthcare research project for Aboriginal people. And so we used the footage and the images that had been collected over the years within those different health providers in the video piece. So whilst we didn't use this, I filmed the stories, we definitely used the images that have been created by the different participating health providers in the community. So yes, and I would recommend capturing stories with a trained professional again. And the images, I have trained this team, on the Right Track team to capture images, and they do it all the time. And those, some of those images were in there too. So
in terms of the images you capture, so if I go from a quantitative perspective, I might have some data on a spreadsheet or from a database, and I summarize that in tables, graphs, or statistics. You're getting stories and using the visuals to summarize. How many hours would you capture, and then how many hours do you end up either putting on the web or including in a short video? What's the sort of conversion?
that's a good question, actually, because the actual videos, okay, that the stories, the original stories that I capture, we pretty much use all of them. I just cut my questions out and have a slide up. So their whole story is pretty much been analysed by the M&E specialists. Then from that, we will just pull out, okay, so we're just looking at the enablers here. So we'll pull out just the enablers. So what it does is it's making it really easy for the community to consume and to be able to, participate in that participatory evaluation. So they're not having to watch, these huge amounts of this huge amount of story data. They're just looking at either the enablers, or they're looking just at the barriers, or they're just looking at the most significant change processes or story. Yeah. Does that answer it?
It does. Thank you.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions? I'm mindful that we're coming to the end of our time. People can either come off silent and ask them themselves, or they can put it into chat.
I'll see if I can, whilst I'm not sharing, see if I can actually get this link.
just while Susan gets the link, last chance for some questions.
Sharing settings. Hold on.
I will say something, if that's okay.
That's right.
Thanks for answering those questions along the way, Susan, and it was great seeing what you've done. I have seen a lot of work done by lots of different people who are not trained and have put together some really great footage. So I suppose I'm a bit sort of, when you said, oh, you should be using someone that's trained, for me personally, I feel like, yes, it'd be great, but sometimes we don't have the budget to do that. And I don't want it at the end of this presentation to feel like people should only go down that path, that it is possible to not have a trained person. That's just a comment, I suppose.
Yeah, thanks for that, Michelle. And then what I would be doing is I'd be running participatory workshops with those people. So, you know, they have, and I've done many of those things where then they've got the questions, they've got the skills to do the interviews and use the camera and all of those sorts of things. So empower them to be able to use those cameras properly. So and we've done plenty of that over our years in training people up in that participatory method. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I went to, not yours, but another one, and found it very useful. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.
I'm not too sure how to
have you copied the link, Susan? You can.
Yeah, but I'm not too sure. I'll copy the link up the top and tell me if you can just click on it and go through to it, because I'm not too sure if that just goes through to my.
If you put it in the chat.
I just did. I just put
meeting.
it there. So just see if it works.
Yeah, it's come through. Yeah, that's come. Yeah, we can.
So does that? Can you actually get into that, because it looks like it's an edit one. Hey.
It's taking me. Oh, it's asking me for a username.
Yeah, so that's what I was thinking, right? So there's usually a share button, but you know, I can't actually see it right at this very moment. So
if you're able to find the share button and email it to me,
yeah,
I will ask the AES to email it out to everyone who's
okay, great idea.
On the registration list. How's that?
Great idea, because I cannot find it. There is this share button on here, but it's locked down. So I just have to fiddle around with that. And yeah.
So once you have an account, does that mean, because I can see down the bottom of that, because I clicked on the link too, it says set up an account, which is free.
Yeah.
Does that mean you can go in and access anything?
Yeah, you can. What do you mean? You can access how to make one. Yeah. Yeah.
But access other people's ones?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you can go and have a look at different ones. Yeah. I believe that there is a library on there.
Okay, thanks.
But a lot of the time you need a link to the person's, you know, if you're looking for a particular presentation. Yeah.
What's the difference between personal use and just
so good question. Have you seen the ones that they used in COVID that were sort of there's ones that are really in-depth story maps, and if you like I think it was Michelle was just talking just then, if you go in there, you'll see some really complicated ones. I think the other ones that have used the actual maps, the geo maps, these ones are just using a map from I think it's like Google or what have you, but these are the other ones. If you're paying for it, you're using their story. Their maps, yeah.
Yep. Okay.
I think that's the difference. And it's super expensive too, by the way. So why have that when you can have a free account if you're just using it as a tool like this?
Yep. Okay. Thank you. Well, I'm mindful.
Here we are. I've got it.
You got it? Brilliant.
I got it. I knew I just had to actually, I just had to get out of that presentation.
So
Okay.
Susan, does that mean you just have the public free account as well for your
Yeah,
work?
that's correct. Yep, that's
Yes.
correct. So I've just posted that. See if you can actually get onto that now.
I'm just doing it. Yep.
You can. It's
Yep.
got like no box of edit and all of that sort of.
No box of edit. It shows on the right track
Okay.
evaluation, your
Yeah.
open sort of
Great.
picture. So yep, it works. So
Okay, great.
well,
Okay.
please grab the link, and I'm mindful that we've gone slightly over. So thank you very much, Susan, for your time today and the presentation. It was great. And thank you for all those who posted questions. Shows you're interested in listening, and obviously keen to engage in the sort of thinking that Susan's been doing for a while. So appreciated. I guess watch the space on the professional learning area of the AES. The SA Regional Committee will be coming up with more offerings in the very near future. So thank you. And thanks again, Susan.
Thanks, everybody.